so there's always that lingering in the background, but I cut contact. So you need to cold turkey cut contact with anybody who is manipulating you, forcing you into a person or a situation or a behavior that you deep down inside know you're not comfortable with.
So let's welcome Louise Peachman to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Beatriz. I really appreciate you having me on your program today to share a little bit of my experiences with your audience. I really appreciate it.
It's really curious for me to know, when you hear allow yourself, what comes to mind?
Without a doubt, allow yourself to be genuinely and authentically you. If you are ever in a situation, in a relationship, whether it's social or business sense, and you cannot be authentically you, you are doing so much internal damage to yourself from a mental and a physical basis. You need to extract yourself from that situation if you can't be authentically yourself. So I spent 19 years, or probably 15, 16 years, I was within the relationship, and then another 3 or 4 years battling through court. But in that 15, 16 years, I could never be myself. I was walking on eggshells. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't be myself. So I'm a massive believer that if you are in a situation, the amount of damage it did to me mentally, and I had to do extensive mental health coaching to navigate my way out of that damage, is a massive answer to that question. Is you need to be authentically and genuinely you. And if you can't be yourself on a daily basis in the exact same situation time and time again, then you need to rethink that situation and get yourself out.
It sounds so easy, right? It sounds so easy when we say we need to be unapologetically us, but you went through coaching and therapy to get out of it, because it's the universe bring us so many limitations and so many situations that we need in order to fit in, to accommodate ourselves, and sometimes to pretend that it's like a muscle that we're building, and it gets so strong that sometimes when we face it, it's like, who is this person? This is not me. And then it starts to feel heavy and uncomfortable, and a lot of mask on that. When is that? When can you tell us a moment in your life that you had to unlearn things in order to allow yourself to be you?
It wasn't until I left my ex-husband. So I left him, and he had manipulated me into being a version of myself I really didn't like. I'd look at the mirror and say, that's not me. Why am I saying things like this? Why am I doing things like this? And I knew it was funneled by his force, his manipulation, his control. And it wasn't until I left and I'm like, I don't have to be that version of me that he manipulated me into. I can now be truly and 100% myself. And it took me probably 2 or 3 years, and unfortunately we were still navigating court. It's been almost 4 years now since I've well and truly left him. So that last 4 years have been definitely healing. I've been 6 to 8 months now free from him and free from court completely. And it wasn't until I made that final disconnect when I thought, I'm finally fucking free. If I'm allowed to use French, I don't know. But it was that moment where I realized I can now be whoever I want to be, and I can put myself in situations where I thoroughly enjoy who I am and how I want to express myself and how I want to show up and how I want to present myself online without having his negative, nasty, horrible comments that would come in left, right, and center. And I can just express myself, be myself, and do things and create challenges and meet those challenges without constant negativity from him or disapproval or, encouragement to not pursue paths that I wanted to pursue. So the last 4 years have been a massive learning experience, but it was letting go and realizing I now control my narrative and I can do what I want to do, and I will do what I want to do.
It's very interesting because we always control our narrative. it's supposed to be. Like we all, what we have inside our head is ours, and we are the only ones that have our own narrative. But what happened, I don't know if that what happened to you, but it happened to me, that after hearing so many times the same thing, the same negative things, and how bad I am and how terrible I am and I don't know to do anything, and never is good enough of what I do, it becomes like I started doubting about myself and getting that narrative. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm like this. Maybe I'm like that. So it's not like only that I start doubting. I start behaving in a way that I'm. So
Yep.
I'm getting smaller and smaller and smaller because I'm a bad person. I don't know how to do this. It's never good enough. So so um yes, that's when probably you decided, okay, enough, I don't want to hear this anymore, so I'm getting a divorce, so probably it comes from you, right? I don't want to hear it
Yep.
anymore. And then
Yep.
it's not reinventing, is more like rediscovering who you really are, right? Um, what food do you like, right? I started
Mm.
from there if I
Yep.
like
Yep.
the egg scrambled or fried. But
Yeah.
it's like we lost ourselves completely in the other person, that it's how do we go to recognize ourselves? So what's
Yeah.
the process? Tell us, how was your process of reconnecting to yourself and rediscovering the Louise you're meant to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I initially left him, I fled in a 2.5 hour window. So it was a very, very high DV situation. I put all my ducks in a row. I made an exit plan, set up a new home for my children and I escaped. For the first 6 months, I still had consistent communication, and he was still in the children's lives. Especially for the first 3 months, there was consistent co-parenting. So the control didn't stop, and I felt like phone calls and emails and text messages. My God, I think there was 453 text messages in a 3-day window. I ended up having to get the police involved because the harassment was out of control and a new AVO was taken out against him. So the control for the first 6 months didn't stop. So I could not find myself. But I'd commenced, I was in therapy at that point, but I felt like I outgrew therapy. The therapist flat out turned around and said, Louise, I don't think I can give you what you need. I got to the point where I was mentally strong, but I had too much underneath issues that I needed to blow up, navigate, get through. So I found an amazing mental health coach. I'm a massive advocate that your mental health is just as important as your physical health. So I went on a mental health coaching journey and I spent a lot of money. I probably invested 15, 20,000 over a 2-year window. Started off as weekly sessions where we dug deep, where we went all the way back to childhood and what attracted me to the figure that my ex-husband was, and what were the early signs, and what did I experience and what did I deal with, and talking about them and navigating through them allowed me to control what I had experienced. And how did I change along that journey? Now, I met him at a tender age of 17. We were dating an official by 18. I was married at 21. He was 11 years my senior, to paint the picture. So I didn't know who I was at 18. I didn't know who I wanted to be or what I wanted for myself. I didn't know if I wanted, scrambled eggs or boiled eggs at that point. So I think I spent the first 5 or so years of the relationship thinking it was a normal relationship, that getting beaten up and getting hit and getting manipulated and walking on eggshells was normal behavior. And it wasn't until I probably hit my mid to late 20s when I'd had my 4 kids by then, when I started to realize, I don't think this is okay. I don't think my children should be experiencing what I'm experiencing. And it wasn't until I started realizing and seeing things and hearing things and social media and things like that becoming a little bit more prominent, that I started realizing, no, maybe this is not okay. Maybe this is not normal. This is, some of the things that I experienced and I was forced into doing. And so then I ended up navigating my way through days and days and just walking on eggshells and not being who I authentically wanted to be. And when I went to work, it was my release. I'd go to work and I'd get to be myself and I'd get to enjoy my peers and I'd get to be authentically me, and I'd come home and I'd be a different person. The facade would have to go up. I'd have to listen to him. It'd be all about him. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't talk about anything. It was kids and being what I needed to be for him to avoid essentially getting hit. and avoiding that physical violence. So I had to adapt into a persona to ensure that my safety was somewhat okay and the kids weren't witnessing things they didn't need to witness. Then I got to the point where I'm like, no, I need to get out. So I obviously got out. And then once I got out, it was that mental health coaching where she started helping me find who deep down inside I actually am. Then all of a sudden, little bit by little bit, court was progressing. So there's always that lingering in the background, but I cut contact. So you need to cold turkey cut contact with anybody who is manipulating you, forcing you into a person or a situation or a behavior that you deep down inside know you're not comfortable with. So once I cut communication with him, cut cold turkey, like what they call grey rocking a narcissist. He was textbook narcissist from what all of my therapists told me. Grey rocked him completely, and that stopped the damage continuing. Because if I maintained that contact, I would have never gotten through it. But then the mental health coaching allowed me to not only cleanse him from my life, it also allowed me to look at other relationships within my life. So, what was my relationship like with some of my staff? Because as a business owner, were there some of the staff within my company that were not filling my cup or not, doing what I needed them to do from a company's perspective? And also clients. There was one client that was heavily toxic and really hard to work with. And I'd see things pop up and it would be a trigger. She's like, that's it. You need to block them from your social media accounts. You need to stop working for them. And once you clear all of that noise out of your life, then you can start focusing on the good in your life. And the more you keep filling that cup with good things, the yuckies flutter out. And eventually it gets buried in a long distant memory that you don't need to resurface ever so often or really infrequently. And now when I talk about my experiences, it's not a trigger anymore because I've been there. I've mentally navigated my way through it. I've flushed the negatives out of my life and I focus on the positives. And when a new negative comes into my life, I address it quite quickly, either get rid of it or keep it and work through it and clean up those issues rather than having something that lingers for years and years on end. That's just going to bit by bit take a little bit from you, which you will mentally and physically be affected from in the long term.
It's a beautiful story, the way you realize that you can see where you're vulnerable because you allow yourself to be vulnerable and you allow yourself to lose people also, just to get rid of people from your life that are doing harm to you. Maybe they can come back after you really heal it, but when you see them from far, there are some triggers already, some flags that already you say, no, not here. This is not for me. It doesn't mean there are bad persons. They are not for you. There is not a match. There are some people that really need to be controlled, but there are some women that need not to be controlled, that they need their, they know their life, they want to live their fully, they want to express, they want to show their creativity. That with toxic people is very hard because every time you try to step one other up, they bring you three down. And it's like a competition all the time for them that you are brilliant. I call it like it's the darkness that doesn't like the light. So that's when they try to turn off your light because it bothers to the darkness. That was my explanation. Oh, who do I am bothering now? Oh, yeah. The dark people. So it's not for me. If I'm shining too much, I don't want to blind them, so they can go. Or they can put, like Lisa Nichols used to say, I can give you some shades to put on, so you won't get so blinded. Yeah, but it takes a lot of courage. You talk and tell your story like it's just easy because you went through and you're on the other side. But going through that bridge that you went from one part with help, that you were allowed to get help, that's very important. You cannot do it alone. I can tell you that you cannot see what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So really you need to go on the hand with the hand of coach and psychologist or a companion that know the road and know what you're going through, and because you are in a roller coaster of emotions. So really brave and a lot of courage and a lot of awareness what's going on and why are you protecting yourself. Because
Yeah.
tell me if you felt like that, but I felt like I was um, like my heart was so sensitive, like it was wounded so much that if you put a small needle you will jump. So it's
Yep.
like really starting to heal and protecting and doing massage to your heart, right? That this is not me, this is what their opinion they're talking. One of the sentences that really helped me with that the coach gave me, psychologists at that time, it was they're talking about themselves. They don't talk about you. Every time that they say that you are not good enough, that you're not good for this, they're talking about themselves.
That's exactly.
That's the
Yep.
mirror you're taking out of them. That's because you're shining, so they need to put you down.
Yep.
So, yeah, is that what you experience it?
100%. So in the first 18 months of my separation, you could almost read a book on narcissism, and my ex ticked every single box. So the minute I left, it was definitely sprung on him. I did pre-warn him. I said, look, I'm leaving. I'm out of this relationship. He never believed me. I
All right,
obviously
yeah.
put the plan in place, and I got out of there and literally fled in a 2.5 hour window. I had banks sorted where one phone call and it was, my business bank accounts were transferred to me, left him with his business and business bank accounts. I called the school, picked up the children very early, sprung that news on them. The first 2 weeks, it was almost like, I don't know, let's call it separation honeymoon. Things were peaceful. Things were okay. Co-parenting was actually okay. And I'm like, okay, this is not what I was expecting for separation. This is great. This is going to be fantastic. But after about 2 weeks, the real him really amplified to a whole new level. Like in that first couple of weeks, he was doing everything he could to get me back. And I was just not having a bar with it. Absolutely not. I said, let's look and see where you're at in 12 months' time. If you've changed, if you're different, if you're whatever. Not that I had any intentions, but I just wanted to try and keep the peace. For 18 months, I could, and I'm intending to, write a book on the extreme actions he took to destroy me, my company, my business, my reputation, my relationship with my children, any and every license I held or obtained or had possession of. He did everything to destroy that. He had tried to have my company wound up. I could honestly fill 10 pages with lists of things he did to try and destroy me as a human being. So as a single mother, brand new home, brand new environment, children obviously completely taken out of their natural habitat, but, instantly could feel that it was an improvement for them. But trying to run multiple businesses, trying to maintain some level of sanity while you've constantly got this person attacking, whilst you're still communicating with them and listening to them and being abused by them over text messages, over emails, with legal stuff commencing and solicitors. It was just so much. There were nights where I was so sick with stress, I was vomiting. My body was not reacting well to it all. And that's when I realized psychology was not helping. I was delicate. I was sensitive. I was beyond control. And it was a year where it was 2022. So we just finished the back end of COVID. And as a company, we had postponed so many weddings and events because of COVID. So it fell on a year. I never, ever want to live 2022 again. 2022, I never want to live again. It fell on a year where our company had double the workload. I had 8 full-time staff or 6 full-time staff. He convinced 4 of them to leave, that he was wrapping up the company. They won't have a job. Within a month, 4 of them believed him, listened to him. I had to replace 80% of my team whilst we were
in the wedding planning business.
in my current business. Yeah. So obviously I navigated that, and it made me realize that those toxic people within my office needed to go. But the stress I was under trying to deliver 122 weddings alone that year we delivered, and they all left me right in the brunt of peak season, which was around April of 2022. I was mortified that these people knew. And these were the girls, these were women that I could find it in. And I told them what I was experiencing on a daily basis for the 6 months,
Oh,
12
but
months, 18.
they are very expert in manipulating, and you know
Oh,
they talk amazingly. They talk amazingly good. They can sell sand in the desert. You know, that's the way it is. That's why we fell in those hands. But you know, it's like bottom line, what he was telling you is that how can you be happy without me? That
yep. Yes,
cannot be.
100%, 100%. I'm going to destroy your happiness and every
Yeah.
shred of your success, because God forbid if you're off there and you're happy and you're doing okay, let alone
Without me.
amazing, without me. Yes, 100%. So I put up with, it was a solid 18 months of manipulation, but 3.5 years of court. The last year or two, it calmed down. Still the occasional dig or jab. So I was very cautious what I put out there professionally or what I did professionally. I've always wanted to launch my speaking career, but I held off. I wanted to change my name many months before I got married to my now husband, but I couldn't because I knew if I changed my name early, he'd spark up a massive drama about it. So I was always held back while court was going on. And it wasn't until around 6 or 8 months ago where I was finally free to do what I want to do, change my name. I've now changed my children's name. He has no access or contact to his children because of his behaviors. That all came out from the children's reports and the court process. So did I win? No, there's no real winning in this. But am I alive? Yes. Am I free? Yes. Am I happy? Yes. Can you do it? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. It's really, really hard. If I could go back 4 years ago and say, would I stay? If I knew what I had to go through and knew what the next 3.5 years were going to bring without knowing there was light at the end of the tunnel, I probably would have stayed. But now that I've gotten through the other side and I know how amazing and how free and how alive I am, I would leave in a heartbeat 1,000 times over. When you're living it, and then it comes, sometimes the thought would come into my head is, was it worth it? Should have I just stayed and been at his mercy and dealt with his crap day in, day out? Do I just put up with it? Because this is worse, and it is worse. Post-separation abuse is right up there. But getting through it was 100%. I'm not going to tell anybody it's easy, because if they're anything like my ex, it's a nightmare. But let me tell you this, that Freedom Day, that date in October, where I think it was September, October, where I was finally free, that feeling throughout my entire body was worth every shred of stress, abuse, control, and crap that I had to put up with for not just the 16 years of the relationship or marriage, but also the 3.5 years of abuse. I'd do it again and again. I'd go through all of that again, knowing what it's felt like in that last 6 months, finally being free and being 100% me without any control or manipulation from him again.
It's really interesting what you say, because how I put it in short is the in between where you were and where you are. That I call it the in between. There is uncertainty and struggle, and you don't know what to do and who to talk and how to talk and what to believe and what not to believe, and all the internal questioning and doubt. Yes, it's difficult, but it's easier if you focus on what you really want. What's your goal? Where is your light, the peace, the freedom? This is the price I have to pay in order to be free. And it's a very learning, right? It's a very learning path, that bridge, I call it. Yeah, that it's a hanging bridge, that it's very not stable and not steady at all. But when you focus, it's not easy, right? I agree with you, and it's very solitary also. Sometimes you feel very lonely, but it's the learning process to be strong, to be courage, to be resilient, because you're seeing the light, that you know there is a light in the other side. Even if you're not aware, you know it.
You know it's coming.
You know it, they exist, because before your marriage, you were like that. When you were a kid, you had that light, and you know that you're coming back to your core and you're coming back to yourself. And although you have a lot of doubts and a lot of crying and a lot of sadness and anger and whatever. And why me? How can I be so stupid that fall into this? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, but if we, I always say that it's very not fair to judge ourselves to years before,
Yep.
because we didn't have the tools that we have now. And if we did our best in the moment that we were with the tools that we had. Now that we went through that in between manipulation, and we could see all the, this is not me, this is out of me, what it's doing to me. And I was allowing that when I was married because I didn't know better. But now that I know better, I don't allow that. My boundaries are different. I
Yep.
just neutralize all the buttons. They cannot touch, and
That's right.
that it happened to you. They know you so well that they know each button, which
Yes.
button to talk, and the kids which button to talk. So
Yep.
you will explode, and you can
Yep.
and you go back, and right, like it's like a fishing rod. No, they just pull it, and when you're here, plus slap. So you go back down, and then
Yep.
again pull it, pull it, pull it. Um, but when
Just a cycle,
you,
never-ending cycle.
yes, and
Mm.
I, and I hate you because I love you, right? This is the love, or the relationship of hate and love at the same time.
Yep.
That's how it's the manipulation coming.
Yep.
But when you really cross that door, that you see the light, everything is worth it.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, tenfold, 1,000,000 times over, without doubt. There was a moment through my journey over the last 3.5 years in my transition where my sister actually pulled out a photo of me when I was, a tender age of 17. And she goes, Louise, look at how alive you were. Look at the person you were back then before this person came in and just changed my course and my path of my life. And then it's in the last 12 months, I've had so many beautiful, amazing things happening. Got engaged to my now husband, got married, enjoyed a beautiful bridal shower with my girls, and so many people. And I lost 35 kilos. I've gone on a really beautiful health journey as well, because I've come to the tail end of the court case, and I'm a new person. And so many people have turned around and said, oh my God, you're glowing, you're alive, you're a whole new person. And I was at an event on Sunday, and people who I haven't seen for 6 or 12 months turned around and said, are you aging younger? Are you literally getting younger? Because you've got no idea how much being in such a horrible, toxic, negative, shitty situation really impacts not just your mental health, but also your physical health and how you look and feel. And for people to see that, feel that, and or comment that, like, this is the first time in my life where people have already ever turned around and said, are you aging younger? And I'm like, I love that, because I'm pushing 40 in a couple of years. So I'm down for looking younger. Mm-hmm. So for people to make comments like that tells me that I've got this whole new energy and lens on life, and I'm excited and I'm passionate about what I do, and he cannot control me. He cannot press my buttons, as you explained. He has no contact or access to the children to manipulate me through the children. He has literally no control, no access, nothing. Like, legally, they are 100% mine, and it is amazing. Now, I'm not going to say that you might get the same, you may or may not get the same outcome, but if you set those boundaries and you limit the buttons that they can press, and you can, what I learned in mental health coaching is that you cannot control what anybody does. They're going to have their own prerogative. They're going to do whatever they want to do, and you cannot control that. What you can control is how you react to that behavior. And your reaction to that behavior is going to heavily impact your mental health and your physical health, and how much time you give that. So now I'm starting to instill some of that wisdom that I've learned on my daughter. She's, tender age of almost 15, and she's got cute little, friendship and boy drama as a teen. And she'll constantly come up to me and say, Mum, this happened. And I'm like, yeah, he's a horrible person. And if you give him a minute of your time now, that's a minute in your life you're never going to get back. If you give him 10 minutes, if you give him an hour, and you're going to dwell and stress and overturn in your mind all of these horrible things this one person has said in one moment, you're giving them too much of your time. That time you're never going to get back. Your time is valuable. So if you spend that time thinking, dwelling and procrastinating and stressing and with absolute frustration about what one person has said or done beyond your control, you're giving them that power, and they don't even know it. You need to stop.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Where after we go through all that, after you went all that, how you become a multiplier, right? Because
Yeah.
then now you have the knowledge to pass
Yeah.
it to your daughters and to your friends even. Look what it's doing. Look, okay, it's like, do you want to give that person that power? You are the one giving the power. Uh,
Yep.
you are allowing it. So that's the beauty of being aware how much control you have of yourself. And
Yep.
are you giving it away to the circumstance? Are you giving it away to another person? Or where are you giving your power away? Is all that story that you tell yourself. I call it the story that you tell yourself. What's the story you're telling yourself? Because that's how you will behave, how is the way you will act, and even further, that's the way you're going to feel.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, and affect your body, and your spirit knows, and the person you really need to listen, that it usually doesn't speak loud but whispers, is yourself.
Yep.
So but you need quiet to be quiet to listen to yourself.
Yeah, what I learned as well, which is quite interesting, is that when you've got little voices in your head, it's not always yourself. Sometimes it's a younger version of you. So what I learned in mental health coaching is go back to the younger version of you, and what would you say to a 18-year-old you, a 5-year-old you, a 7-year-old you? And sometimes you need to grab those younger versions of you that are still embedded in you internally, bring them up, give them a cuddle, and support them and nurture them through some of those natural challenges, and give them that advice and wisdom, and tell them that those decisions you made at those different times in your life, you made those decisions with the information you had on hand at that time, and you made that decision with what you had available to you. So you can't beat yourself up. I can't beat myself up because 20 years ago I made a decision to, embark on a relationship with a monster, and had to navigate through that.
You
I
didn't
made
know he was a monster back
right. That's
then. You were
he was
in love. Yeah.
no.
So
I didn't have that information at hand. If I had a glass, ball, and it said in 20 years' time you're going to leave this monster because he's abusive and he's this and he's this and he's this, then of course I wouldn't have married him and I wouldn't have embarked on a relationship with him. We didn't.
but don't forget that those pairs people at the beginning, I don't know yours, but at least mine was very enchanting. They were
Yeah.
charming. They know poetry and they bring flowers and they know how to flirt really nice and open the door of the car and bring you
Yes.
presents and take you to see new things and experience and whatever. Yeah, yeah. So going back to that conversation, have if you would have the opportunity to go to your 15 years old Louise today, what would you
Yep.
tell her?
I would tell her, do your homework. Really assess who it is. So some people have asked me, interestingly, they turned around, they said, "Oh, Louise, if you could live your life again, if I could go back to 15, would I embark on the same relationship?" And I understandably, yes, I got 4 children from that relationship and I love them dearly. But I flat out said, if I could rewind the clock and not know what I've experienced, and get back to my tender age of 15 and stand and walk in my shoes at 15 all over again and restart my adult life, I would do it in a heartbeat, because I would much prefer to not have that 20 years of abuse and trauma that I had to experience. Yes, maybe I might not have my 4 children. I actually had this conversation with my daughter and she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, maybe I might have married an amazing husband like I've got now. And maybe we would have had our 4 children still. And maybe you mightn't have been Evie, you might have been Isabella." And I joked to my daughter, she turned around, she goes, "I don't like Isabella now." And rah, rah. It was a very funny conversation. But as much as I've got my beautiful children, my children have trauma. They have damage from that relationship that they're going to have to navigate through their adult life. And I see little telltale signs of things that they're still trying to navigating, especially the older two. The younger two, not so much, because they were a bit younger when I left. They're going to have challenges. Now, if I could relive my life, go back to 15 and not know that I was in this 20-year relationship of abuse and I had these beautiful 4 amazing children, and I could go back to 15 and meet my Prince Charming and hopefully, head on the right path with an amazing husband and still have 4 beautiful children, I would do it in a heartbeat. Because to avoid that trauma and that stress and that abuse and what I've had to experience and what my children have had to experience, I would absolutely go back in a heartbeat. Now, if I went back to my 15-year-old self and I had no choice but to endure this, I flat out would have told my 15-year-old self, this is what's on the cards for you. What are we going to do to make sure that we can survive this? What are we going to do? What are we going to implement? Are we going to date this guy for 6 months and see those red flags straight away and run for the hills? And that's probably what I would have done. But at 15 years old, I was, at a highlight of my teen years. I just started working. Things were looking up and exciting. And somehow I crossed paths with this person who became my husband, and obviously the rest is history. But I would love to go back to my 15-year-old self and say, the world is your oyster. Here is some advice. Here is some wisdom. Assess people, judge people, and really get to know them before you make a lifelong commitment to them, and assess if they are true and if they are their genuine selves, and get your head around what, I even had his ex-wife at the tender age of 18 telling me that he was having an affair and she's pregnant with another baby on the way and you've broken up their marriage. And I'm like, this is a vastly different story to what he's told me. I still believed his story. It's just all these horrible things that I wish I could go back to my younger 18-year-old self and say, look at the red flags, look, open your eyes, take the rose-colored glasses off. But no matter what anybody told me, no matter what anyone would have said at that time, I wouldn't have believed them. I was too young, too naive, too manipulated, too loved up to be able to really comprehend what was going on.
And our mind doesn't work that well. We are more hormones than mind. In that we are, and when you're in love, it's like we're being high with marijuana. It's the same thing. All the defects are rose color and everything is nice, and the other ones only want to harm you because you know that he's not like everybody says. At that time, the hard part for teenagers, I see it today and I see myself then, is to believe what they say. It's to believe what other people say. And just pay attention. My father used to tell me all the time, you know what? You do whatever you want. But first, listen to what others have to say. Maybe you will learn. Maybe they will tell you. And it doesn't matter what year, how old are you. When you're in love, you try to convince yourself that you are correct. You try not to listen to the others, but the advice is, look, listen, look, there is a red flag, there is a yellow flag. What are the red flags? What are the yellow flags? What are the green flags? But it's always a lottery, I think, because it's always, especially in those years, because in the flirting time, in the fishing time, I call it, everybody tries to be their best.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
And after you are married, is like, here in Spanish we say, saca las garras, your claws come out.
The honeymoon period is over, is what we call it. And it was hard for me to get into a new relationship and to trust a man again, and to let those walls, and I put so many walls up around me. I wasn't prepared to trust another male or let another male come into my life. Went on a couple of dates and I was like, no, we can't do men. And then I eventually went on a date with my now husband, and been with him for just over 3 years. And it's honestly been amazing. I wouldn't, I tell people that if you've gone through it, don't keep your doors shut. Don't keep your walls up. You need to experience, you need to understand that you've been through a really shitty relationship. It doesn't define the rest of your future. I was in my mid-30s when I left him. Now I'm 38. And it's like, I don't want to be a single mum for the rest of my life. I definitely wanted to meet someone else. And I had full intentions of getting married again. I am married now. But life can and will be amazing. And my dad kept telling me, Louise, it'll be over. It'll eventually be over. The light, the light's at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, yeah, but how long? And I think the biggest drag for me was 3.5 years in court. It's been 4 years now since I left him. And it's like, it shouldn't have gone that long. It should have only been 12 or 18 months, but it just kept going on. And he kept dragging and dragging and dragging things on through the court. And if that happens to you, let me tell you this. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's expensive. But you will get through it. You will. And I kept
listening. Mine were 5.
Mine were 5. So. 5. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But it's time also. It's it's like I see it like the universe puts a pause for you not to engage with another man until you know yourself
You're
first.
ready. Yep.
So those 3.5 years or 5 years or whatever time it takes, you're healing, you're going to the coach, you're going to the psychology, you're meeting new friends, you are more with yourself, you're
Yep.
really discovering who are you without that man, without
Correct.
any man, not that man, without any man. Who are you? Uh,
100%.
yeah. And
For me,
how is what?
sorry, you go.
No, I was going to go to um, your job, you're performing your company. Um, I assume it was affected, although you try to work as normal as possible. But um, how is it today that you're back to yourself and you have more creativity, or you're more motivated, or how does it work now?
Yeah, so interestingly, especially in that first 6 months, I reckon he phone called or emailed in excess of about 100 clients and affiliations of my company to turn around and make lies and accusations, and that he's shutting down the company and I shouldn't work with them, that he's taking me to a current affair, which is local news platform, and he's going to name and shame me publicly and I shouldn't affiliate with me. So I lost clients. I lost a lot of clients, and it was just a battle. Some clients would pick up the phone and say, Louise, we've been told this information, and is it legitimate? Is it true? And I'm like, no, it's my ex-husband. He's causing headaches. It was a battle every single time. I'd be getting
And
these
nobody
calls.
wants to marry in a place where there's a battle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, the good thing is he didn't really impact the wedding side of wedding clients because he didn't have the ability to contact one-off clients, but venues that we'd affiliate, photographers, videographers, photo booth companies, all of these business associates would get this bad taste about their dealings with me. But some of these companies I've been working with for 3 or 4 years already. I've now been 8 years in business. At the time, it was probably about 4 years in business. So a lot of them actually called me and said, Louise, we've had this phone call, we've had this email. Just want to let you know, I don't care about it. You've been great. We've been great. We're just going to keep brush it aside. I'm like, yep, it's my ex-husband. So I constantly felt like I had to keep explaining myself. So I eventually bit the bullet and I thought, you know what? I'm sick to death of him putting his version of whatever crap he wants out there in the world. I've had at this point at least 100 affiliations and associates contact me. So I'm assuming there's probably another 100 that didn't care to contact me or tell me about it. I went and did a public post in a business forum or group that I've got on social media on the wedding sector, and put my story out there. And this was probably only about 12 months into my separation. It was really hard for me to do, but I felt I had to do it. I felt I had to put my version of events out there. And I did. And that started changing things around. And bit by bit, some clients would, I lost a lot of clients, and business really took a heavy hit. And I chose to not work with some clients. But I just kept navigating, taking day by day. And yes, realize that some clients are not a part of my business anymore, and that's okay. And then I got new clients and I got new affiliations and I got new associations. And interestingly, after the business took a good hit because of that, those challenges, what I found is as business sort of progressed and a year or 2 or 3 years went on, and when these businesses who chose to not work with me anymore because of what they'd heard or what they'd been told, bit by bit would claw their way back into my company. Some of these businesses were earning 20, 30, 50, 100 grand just by recommendations, photo booths, photographers, videographers, and they choose to not work with me because of some crap they'd heard. I'd find that little bit by little bit, they all started coming back around, realizing that she's still around. That happened 2 or 3 years ago. Business is still surviving and if not thriving. So I found that throughout the course of that journey, yes, it took some hits that year, but I navigated my way through it. I didn't let those losses define me. I kept pushing, kept battling, found new clients, got new tenders, got new contracts, got new staff members, had a new lease on life and a new invigoration. I didn't have to go home and deal with that crap anymore, which allowed me to focus more time, effort, and energy on the business around outside caring for the children. So I think that continued control, that continued focus, that continued direction, and that continued, he's actually, and shifting my mindset that no, he didn't destroy or try to destroy my company. He cleaned it for me. So he flushed out the negative clients. He flushed out the
that's
negative.
the flip it, huh? That's
Yes,
the flip.
yes.
That's the flip your mind, the flip the concept. And another thing you did very powerful is that in not giving up, you didn't give him the power
Yes.
of
Yes.
your life, not of
There was
your life, not the power of your business, not the power of your kids. You did,
yeah.
you took away all the power and you grab it yourself. And
Yeah.
sometimes it it seems very hard, but um, for me at least, it was a decision. I'm not giving
Yeah.
up. I'm not
Yeah.
giving the power. This is me, and who wants to know me, know me. I am the one that defines who am I. Nobody will
Yeah.
define me. Nobody else will define me or talk about. If they want to talk about me and you want to believe it, your problem. This is me. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of allowing yourself to shut your hearing to only the good things, not to listen the bad things. You know, I had some a salesperson that said, "Oh, or we go up or we destroy the business." No, 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 no. To destroy the business, I can do it myself. I don't need
Mm.
any help. Okay,
Yeah.
that I know. So I'm not giving up. I'm not going that way. So it's really a privilege and an honor to talk to you. That you're such a powerful woman with a lot of courage and resilience and willing to share your heart. And for that, I really appreciate it. And I'm really, really thanking you of sharing your heart with us, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to bring to the table, to this program, your wisdom, because it's not a easy journey what you went through, but it's you. Everybody can see that you can go through the in between and get to the other side, and to give yourself permission to rest, to grow, to talk, to share. It's amazing. So if in one word, what would you take from this conversation, or in one sentence?
I guess to probably summarize it all, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. And if anybody tells you otherwise, don't listen. Go back to your heart and just do it, because honestly,
Is worth
it's
it.
worth it. It's worth it.
is
Yeah.
is worth it.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, remember to give yourself permission to have a space to take your own power, to rest, to begin again and become all, especially what you're meant to be. So, thank you for listening. See you next time.